The first cable news ratings of the year are out. On Monday, January 2nd, Fox News came out on top, garnering 1.3 million total daily views. That is 3 times the number of views competitor network CNN got. Just over 500,000 turned in to CNN, while MSNBC came in second with 913,000 total views.
CNN's new CEO, Chris Licht, has turned the network upside down since taking over last year, axing staff, making changes to lineups, shuffling hosts around, all in an effort to boost its ratings and views, apparently unsuccessfully. Briahna, I am not one of these who likes to sort of dance on the. I think that a lot of the commentary around this is needlessly jubilant. I think it's really sad that they're struggling to be a respected, trusted news source. But I wish them well with it. And I think that, there was a need for some sort of reshuffling. And I remain hopeful that, Licht will find some way to turn the ship around. I think that the key to it is something that they're still missing, which is what we do here, which is robust debate. People want to see debate. They want to hear the other side. They want to see people engaging with people they disagree with. They want to see that. I mean, I think that is really the thing that I would say, watching a lot of CNN as one does, and something that actually Fox has much more of. They have a lot of panels throughout the day where they feature Democrats and liberals. So I think that really, to me, is where, The Five, which is an extremely popular show on Fox, they always have a seated Democrat. And, that Democrat often loses against 4 Republicans or conservatives, but you get to hear the other side, and I think that is so key. What do you think, Briahna?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. To the extent that the mainstream liberal shows do have ideological diversity, do have a Republican sitting there, it is always a never Trump Republican who frankly doesn't really reflect the ideology of the overall majority of conservatives in the country. It's a safe Republican who is frankly, liberal in a kind of traditional classical sense and has the exact same opinions on everything as the establishment Dems who are hired to work at those kinds of channels. I mean, it is entirely true that, and I say this with all due respect, if you look at some of these shows, if you look at The View, et cetera, they're much more likely to hire someone who, worked in the Trump campaign than someone who worked in the Bernie campaign. They're much more likely to have someone who has been critical of Trump despite being, close to them in the past than someone who has been critical of Joe Biden. And that really, I think, speaks to the fact that this is an establishment, anti-establishment issue, and these mainstream news networks have not gotten the lesson that they need to have more anti-establishment voices. So while I agree with you that some of the kind of dancing on the grave of media institutions is distasteful, a part of my sympathy is diminished by the fact that these lessons have been out there for a long time. The writing has been on the wall for a long time. Yeah. And for some reason, and I don't think it's a financial reason because the finances are not good under the plan that they're currently operating under. But it seems an ideological reason. They absolutely refuse to have outsiders on these networks. And it's really hurting them. And they could choose to change that at any time.
Yeah, and I will just say, I don't know that you'll agree with me about this, but CNN back in 2012, it had the same percentage of working class viewers as Fox did, actually. 25% of its viewers had a college degree, which was the same for Fox in 2012. Fast forward to 2019, and 25% of Fox viewers have a college degree. And back in 2019, it was something like 45% of CNN viewers at this point had a college degree, meaning over that 10-year span, they managed to lose their working class liberal audience, many of whom did defect to Fox. We know that Tucker Carlson is the most viewed show, not just among Republicans, but also among Democrats. And some people say, oh, they're hate watching. I don't think people sit around and hate watch an hour-long show at night when they're tired. I think a lot of liberal working class people, many people tell me this, they watch Tucker Carlson because he has that class point of view. And so the question is, how did CNN squander that viewership? And, I'm sure you don't like this word, and I don't know what you'll think of this analysis, but to me, it seems pretty clear that it was a woke perspective that started to dominate a very college-educated view of gender and race and other things that sort of pushed out economic concerns in order to focus on concerns that, make leftists feel like heroes without asking them for any kind of economic sacrifice. And I'll just make one more point, which is that, the demonization, not just of Trump, but of the Trump voter, and I think you would agree with me about this. It wasn't just that they deserved to be bankrupted for that. It was immoral, and it hurt our country because those are our fellow Americans, and they weren't voting for Trump out of some sort of hatred. They were voting for him because they had been abandoned by both parties with this sort of neoliberal consensus embodied by NAFTA and things like that. Both parties, obviously NAFTA was Democrats, and then the free markets, free market perspective on both sides. And I think that demonization was really, I mean, if there's one thing that we should all be fighting, it's demonization of people on the other side, whether it's by saying that they're racist because they voted for Trump or that they're groomers because they think everybody should live in dignity.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I wouldn't use the word woke just because I think that so many things that are substantive and frankly very class related are subsumed under the wokeness label, to the extent that various groups have been historically denied economic privilege because of their identity. Yes. It's important to address those kinds of things. But I do think that what has happened is the topic priorities of people in the liberal media sphere and academic sphere and broadly are the kinds of identity-based concerns that concern elites. So while there are these important overlaps between identity, racial identity, and class identity, and also things like rural identity and class identity, what's been happening with low-income white people in this country is another kind of, I'd say, identity class issue that deserves to be talked about, along with a lot of these other historically marginalized identity groups. They don't talk about that stuff. What they talk about is the kind of identity concerns that concern elites, people in the upper echelon of our society. So did Oprah get discriminated against for when she tried to buy a $40,000 handbag? Did some celebrity get pulled over by a cop, et cetera, et cetera? And it's not that those things should happen. I don't think that Oprah should be discriminated against. But at a certain point, the kinds of topics that they talk about seem so out of touch when people are struggling. People of all backgrounds are struggling in so many material ways. So I think you're completely right there. And shout out to your amazing book, in which you really rally a lot of those statistics you were citing about the shift in the demographic trends in media over the course of the last, couple hundred years of American media.
That's really kind of you. Thank you, Briahna.
Yeah, please. Strong recommend if listeners haven't read it already. Batya, thank you so much for being here with me today. And we'll see.
Oh, what a pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice to have a little, can I say girl power? Is that too identity-based for me to say? I like this energy here today. But Robbie will be back, and we'll see you next week on Monday. Me, Robbie on Tuesday, as always. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the best of Rising. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. For those of you who like to listen while on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts, and we're also on Roku and other streaming services, so there is no excuse whatsoever for you not to tune in. All right, bye-bye, everyone.